we left off in lesson 4.5. We are solving these equations, and in your class, at the very end of class, I just kind of briefly talked about A, right? We talked about we're going to have to look for that least common denominator, not because we're getting a common denominator, but because we're going to use it to get rid of our denominators. We talked about factoring, so when there's factoring, we're still going to need to do that. And it was no coincidence that x squared minus 8x plus 15 factored into the x minus 5 and x minus 3. Least common denominator. Anything in common, which there was an x minus 5 in common, there was an x minus 3 in common, and then any leftovers. We just didn't have any leftovers here. Okay, we just had the common pieces. Now, our plan is going to be to multiply this entire fraction by, this entire equation by our least common denominator. Now, one way I can show that is by writing something like this, multiplying by x minus 5 times x minus 3. What you do on one side, we do on the other side. Okay? With that in mind, okay, by all means, you can proceed from here. I'm actually, just to kind of make sure I get everybody on board and following, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a moment, I'm going to write this equation, I'm going to kind of expand it, and keep in mind what's going to happen. This x minus 5, x minus 3, it has to multiply by the first fraction. It has to multiply by the second fraction. And then over here on the right, it just has to multiply by the only fraction. So, and you can do this as you please, but what I like to do when we're starting this, okay, we're going to have a 1 times x minus 5 plus, I'm going to leave a gap in front of each of those. We're going to have an x over x minus 3 equals, and on the right, I'm going to have a 2 over x minus 5 times x minus 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write out what are we multiplying each of these terms by? Multiplying each of these terms by x minus 5 times x minus 3. So multiply the first term. I'm going to multiply the middle term by x minus 5 times x minus 3. And I'm going to multiply my last term by x minus 5 times x minus 3. And again, I'm not going to say you have to write that step out big and long like that, but it's a good teaching tool for me right now in the beginning. Now, x minus 5, x minus 3. How do I make that a fraction? Because I'm multiplying by fractions. How do I make anything a fraction? I what? Put it over 1. So all of these you can think of as over 1. And each time it's going to be a matter of what cancels. So this first time, x minus 5, x minus 3 times 1 over x minus 5, what cancels? Okay, 1s, which I don't worry about the 1s, and then x minus 5s cancel, right? 1 on top, 1 x minus 5 on top, cancels with 1 x minus 5 on bottom. What remains? Yeah, x minus 3 times 1, which is just x minus 3. Plus, okay, next set. X minus 5 times x minus 3 times x over x minus 3. What cancels? 1x minus 3 cancels with 1x minus 3, leaving me with the x minus 5 and an x. So for the moment, I'm going to write this as x times x minus 5. Okay? Equals. On the right, what happens? X minus 5 on top cancels with x minus 5 on bottom. X minus 3 on top cancels with x minus 3 on bottom, leaving me with 2. Okay? May not be the easiest equation remaining, but it still looks much prettier than it did, yes? Okay, much better when we get rid of the fractions. Okay. We're using steps we know now. What step do you guys think we need to take here? Yeah. You see parentheses, we're going to have to take that x and distribute it. So x minus 3 plus x times x is x squared. X times minus 5 is minus 5x equals 2. Now what? Did you say combine like terms? Yeah. Okay, combine like terms. And there's a couple different things we can talk about. I don't know, do you want me to do it all in one step or take 2 steps here? One thing, on the left, what do we have going on? X and minus 5x are going to be able to go together, yes? And, yeah, we're going to need this equation to equal 0, guys. I have x squared term, I have x terms. When I have x squared and x, you're generally making your equation equal to 0, is usually the rule of thumb here. So, to make this equal to 0, it's a positive 2. So I'm going to subtract 2, which means on the left, I'm subtracting 2 from the negative 3. Let's clean this up and put it in a good order. So I'm going to start with x squared. X minus 5x is minus 4x. Negative 3 minus 2 is minus 5 equals 0. Okay. So we have a quadratic equal to 0. What's my solving step from here? Yeah. Is it going to factor? We hope so. And rule of thumb, they're going to factor. Okay. You're not going to see a quadratic formula in this scenario. Okay. They're going to factor. Not that we couldn't, but. So, 2 parentheses. X squared is x times x. I need numbers that multiply to be negative 5 and add to be negative 4. Well, the only options for multiplying to be 5 are 5 times 1. And if we want to multiply to be negative 5 and add to be negative 4, negative 5 and positive 1. After we get factored, what do we do? Okay, set each factor equal to 0. So x minus 5 equals 0. X plus 1 equals 0. Officially to solve, if it's x minus 5, you're going to add 5. If it's x plus 1, you're going to minus 1. And we're going to get the answers of 5 and negative 1. Okay. Now, we talked a little bit about yesterday, but didn't really truly experience it. What's the last step we need to do on all these problems today? Check for extraneous solutions. Remember, I'm not expecting you to plug that back in and make sure they fully work out. Okay, we're going to assume we didn't make any mistakes in our solving. Okay, what I need you to make sure of, would either of these make denominator 0? That's the problem. So what numbers would make our denominator 0? What are my no-goes here? 5 and 3. Did we get a 5 or a 3 in our answers? We did. So what's that say about 5? 5 is not an actual answer. We validly came up with it as an answer, but it's what we call an extraneous solution. When you put it back in, it won't work because it would make a denominator equal to 0. Now, does negative 1 work? Pretty much, it doesn't make the denominator equal to 0, so we're going to assume it does. Okay? So that's what I mean when I talk about checking for extraneous solutions, and it's just a real basic, okay, 5 and 3 won't work. Oops, I got one. Okay? Nothing fancy there. Okay. Questions? Got the basics? Okay. Let's look at B. 3 over x minus 3 equals x over x minus 3 minus x over 4. Well, Do any of my denominators need factored? No, there's nothing to factor. Let's talk about least common denominator. What? Okay, I was just going to say, what do we have in common? And in common we have x minus 3. Any leftovers? We also have a denominator of 4. So my least common denominator has to encompass all of our denominators. So we're going to use 4 times x minus 3. Not that you couldn't put the 4 after it. Common practice is to put the 4 before it. Okay? So what am I going to do with that? I'm going to multiply both sides of my equation by 4 and x minus 3. Not sure where I'm fitting it in right here. We're just going to pretend like you can read that, but sorry, my left kind of ran into it. Okay. With that in mind, you can do your canceling and everything from here. It's our first day of this. I'm going to write it out the long way. So I'm basically going to write my equation out, spacing it out so I can put what I'm multiplying by on each term. So I'm going to leave some space before my first term. 3 over x minus 3 equals, I'm going to leave some space, x over x minus 3 minus, I'm going to leave some space, x over 4. What am I putting in each of those spaces? What are we multiplying each term by? Each term is getting multiplied by 4 times x minus 3. 4 times x minus 3. And 4 times x minus 3. How do we make 4 times x minus 3 a fraction? Put it over 1. Okay. First set of fractions. What cancels? 1x minus 3 cancels with 1x minus 3, leaving me with 4 times 3, which is 12. Okay, second fraction, or second set. All right, how about equals? What cancels? 1x minus 3 cancels with 1x minus 3, leaving me with 4 times x, or 4x. Notice it's a minus sign I'm carrying down. Pay attention to what you have there. What cancels on the last one? 4 cancels with 4, leaving me with x minus 3 and x. I personally am going to write it as x times x minus 3. Okay. Similar to last time. First of all, I see some parentheses, so we need to distribute. So 12 equals 4x minus, now, I guess think of this how you want. I'm going to think of this as a minus x. What's minus x times x? X times x is x squared, right? Negative times positive makes it negative. And then when you distribute the x here, think of it as negative x times negative 3, which becomes what? Positive 3x. Okay. What do we need to do here? There's Okay, yeah. There's definitely some like terms here, yes. And then kind of depends. There's some like terms, and somehow or another you're going to have to make your equation equal to 0. So let me do like terms first. So 12 equals, and I'm going to write mine as negative x squared, and then 4x plus 3x is a plus 7x. Okay. And there's different ways you can do this, so you can always meet me in the end. What has to happen? I have x squared next terms. My equation needs to equal 0. Now, 2 ways we can make this happen. We could subtract the 12 over. Now, if we subtract the 12 over, what's going to be the catch we'll have to take care of next? We have a negative x squared. So we'll have to deal with that. Or the other option, to go ahead and get the positive x squared, we could take these two terms and move them over there. And I know you're always taught move the lesser amount of terms, which is good. But on the flip side, I'm also saving myself a step if I move two terms here to get a positive x squared. It's up to you. A couple different ways we can do it. In the end, we're all going to have the same equation. Personally, I'm going to add the x squared and subtract the 7x. Not the only way to do this, guys. So over here to the 12, I'm going to add the x squared and subtract the 7x. When I put that all together on the left, I'm going to have positive x squared minus 7x plus 12 equals 0. Now, if you took a different route to get there, here's the deal. Do you have the same answer set up as me now? Okay, that's all that matters. Okay, what's next? 2 parentheses. X squared is x times x. What multiplies to be 12 and adds to be negative 7? Three times 4. If it multiplies to be a positive, both positives, or in this case, both negatives. Okay. And set each factor equal to 0. And what do we end up with? You add 3. Whoops. Or you add 4 and we get answers of 3 and 4. And what's my last step? Okay. Are either of these solutions extraneous? Yeah, what doesn't work? The 4 actually works. 3. So we have a denominator of 4, but there's no x on there to plug it in. So we don't have to worry about that. But the answer that can't work is I can't plug in 3 because 3 minus 3 would be 0. So the 3 doesn't work. That denominator of 4 actually works to our advantage because I don't have to worry about it equaling 0. So 3 doesn't work. The 4 does work. Okay? You're seeing the basic setup of what's going to happen, okay? We've got a few other peculiar things that are going to happen as we proceed through a couple more examples, but this is the basic setup. I'm going to say one of the harder things is just going to be keeping straight your steps for solving equations versus your steps for adding and subtracting fractions. That's going to be one of the more difficult things, is just keeping our steps straight, okay? So you're going to have to work at that. Okay, C. What do we have in the way of a least common denominator? X minus 2. The only denominator, right? So least common denominator is x minus 2. Remember, you're multiplying both sides of the equation by x minus 2. Now, as you feel confident and you don't want to write out what I'm getting ready to write out, that's you. Okay, I'm personally going to write out the equation, spacing it out. So 5x over x minus 2 equals, I'm going to leave my space after the 7, plus, I guess I'll just leave the space after the 10 over x minus 2. You just need space besides each term. That's what I would suggest. Okay? If this method helps you, space beside each term. Now, what am I multiplying each term by? A basic x minus 2. Does that include the 7? Yes. X minus 2 multiplies by each term, okay? Whether it's a fraction or not. And x minus 2, when you need it as a fraction, is x minus 2 over 1. Okay? First fraction, what cancels? X minus 2 cancels with x minus 2, leaving me with 5x. Equals. Second term, what cancels? Nothing, right? 7 is a whole number. There's no denominator. So there's nothing that could cancel. It's just 7 times x minus 2. What could we go ahead and do with 7 times x minus 2 if you want? Yeah, that's going to be a multiplication. That's going to be distribute. So you could go ahead and distribute here and say that's what? 7x minus 14. Okay. Plus, what cancels on the third set? X minus 2 cancels with x minus 2, leaving me with 10. Okay. Thoughts? Okay, combined like terms. We know that, what do we know here? Negative 14 plus 10 go together, don't they? So I'm going to do 5x equals 7x. Negative 14 plus 10 is minus 4. What needs to happen next? The x's. How do you want to do the x's? Which one am I moving? I would suggest the other one. Okay. Suggestion was 5x. We've gotten used to move the 5x because then you're making the equation equal to 0. However, do I have any x squared terms? No. I just have x terms and number terms, which is really unusual at this point in the game. But does it happen? You're seeing it happen, okay? So I would actually say, and this is why I waited a step to do it, go back to before we ever went to quadratics. X is on one side, numbers on the other side, right? Back in the day. So I'm going to say take the positive 7x and subtract it over. 5x minus 7x is negative 2x. 7x's cancel, and negative 2x equals negative 4. What do we do to solve? Divide by negative 2. Okay. I know I definitely caught some of you off guard on that one because I saw a lot of people that had to retrace their steps. Okay. But just watch. There's no x squared. So there's no reason to make it equal to 0. Let's see. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 cancels. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is 2. And last step of any problem we do today, check for extraneous solutions. What can we not have as an answer? 2. Because if it's x minus 2, basically set that equals 0, right? 2 minus 2 makes it 0. What did we get as an answer? 2. Well, 2 doesn't work. What's that mean? No solution. 2 is the only answer we got. It didn't work when we plugged it back in. So we did all that work just to say no solution. As in, there's no x value that can make this equation true. Okay? So, no solution. It is a possible answer. Okay, what about D? We have to talk about a least common denominator. What do we need to talk about before we talk about that least common denominator? Does anything factor? Hopefully you're recognizing that, yes. I feel like we've had a little bit of a break, but we've done a lot of this factoring lately. X minus 3 is good. X plus 3 is good. X squared minus 9 factors into 2 parentheses. It's a difference of squares. X squared is x times x. The square root of 9 is 3. So that's a plus 3 and a minus 3. Okay, least common denominator. What factors do we have in common? We have an x plus 3 in common. We have an x minus 3 in common. Any leftovers? Yeah. So what are we going to multiply each of our 3 terms by? X plus 3, x minus 3. So both sides of the equation, bless you, are getting multiplied by x plus 3, x minus 3. On the left, realizing that x plus 3, x minus 3 is going to have to distribute. Again, you don't necessarily have to write this next step out, but I'm going to space this equation out so I can show what I'm multiplying by on each step. So I'm going to leave room in front of x over x minus 3, plus I'm going to leave a gap in front of 2x over x plus 3 equals, and on the right, I'm going to write 18 over x plus 3, x minus 3, and I can put it afterwards. So, however you do it, next to each term, I'm going to write x plus 3, x minus 3, and to make it a fraction, I'm putting it over 1. X plus 3, x minus 3 over 1. If you're like me, the hardest part is leaving the right gap. X plus 3, x minus 3 over 1. Okay. First fraction, what cancels? X minus 3 cancels with x minus 3, leaving me with x times x plus 3. Plus, second fraction, what cancels? X plus 3 cancels with x plus 3, leaving me with 2x times x minus 3 equals, on the right, what cancels? X plus 3, x minus 3, leaving me with 18. Okay, I see some parentheses, which means we need to distribute. X times x is x squared, plus x times 3 is 3x, plus 2x times x, 2x squared, 2x times minus 3, minus 6x, equals 18. Okay. Put some like terms together. And notice, so we're going to have x squareds that go together. We're going to have x's that go together. Since I have x squareds and x's, what about this 18? It's going to have to move, right? We're back to making the equation equal to 0. So this step or the next step, either or. What do we have? X squared plus 2x squared is 3x squared. 3x minus 6x is negative 3x. And then subtracting the 18, so minus 18 equals 0. Okay. There's a part of you that's probably wanting to freak out, but pause that moment. Pause. What do you guys notice here? GCF, yes? Okay. Because I was like, man, I don't remember a slip and slide today. Not saying, could slip and slide pop up in homework? I'm not saying it won't, okay? I honestly don't remember. But I'm like, man, I don't remember that in the notes. And then once I see it all come together. All of those terms divide by a 3, yes? So let's factor out a 3. Or it's an equation. You could divide both sides by 3 as well. But if I factor out that 3, x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. Well, there's good news, isn't there? Okay. X squared minus x minus 6 looks like it should factor into 2 parentheses. So carry the 3 down. 2 parentheses. X squared is x times x. Multiplying to be negative 6 and adding to be negative 1. Some combination of 3 and 2. If it multiplies to be negative, one of them's negative. If it adds to be negative, larger number negative. So x minus 3 and x plus 2. Now, when we talk about setting each factor equal to 0, what are we setting equal to 0? We have to set x minus 3 equal to 0 and x plus 2 equals 0. Why didn't I set 3 equal to 0? Huh? Yeah, there's no x. It's a constant. If that was 3x, would we need to include it in our setting equal to zeros? Yes. But because it's just a constant, 3 equals 0, not an option. Okay. What are we getting? If it's x minus 3, you're going to add 3 and get 3. If it's x plus 2, you're going to subtract 2 and get negative 2. And do they both work? The numbers that I don't want in answers, 3 and negative 3. Did we get either of those? We did. We got a 3. But negative 2 should work. Okay? Catching on? Okay. We'll get the next one to see. We can do it real quick. It's not. I think we can get these both in if we're quick. Okay. What about E? Any factoring? No factoring. Least common denominator? Only thing we have is x minus 3. So what are we doing on both sides of this equation? Multiplying by x minus 3. So if I write my equation out, I'm going to have x. Now, I'm going to leave my gap after the x, because it's not a fraction, plus, I guess I'll just leave my gaps afterwards, 6 over x minus 3, leave a gap after that one, equals 2x over x minus 3. Again, it just has to be a gap next to each term, whether it's before or after. Now, what am I putting in each gap? We're multiplying by x minus 3. X minus 3 as a fraction is over 1. Okay. What happens on the first set? X times x minus 3, anything cancel? No. We're just going to what? Distribute. So this becomes x squared minus 3x. Second set. What cancels? X minus 3 cancels, leave me with plus 6. Equals. On the right side, what cancels? X minus 3, leave me with 2x. Okay. I see x squareds and x's, so I'm going to make my equation equal to 0. I'm going to subtract my 2x over. This becomes x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0. There's They're giving us practice. Didn't we just do 6 and 5? No, we did 6 and 1, didn't we? Okay. 2 parentheses. What do you got happening for me? What multiplies to be 6 and adds to be negative 5? Okay. Because they're the same signs, it's 2 and 3. So since it multiplies to be positive, it's 2 positives or 2 negatives. Adds to be negative 5 is 2 negatives. Set each factor equal to 0. So x minus 2 equals 0. X minus 3 equals 0. Solutions of 2 and 3. Do they work? Okay. 2 works. 3 is extraneous because it would make my denominator equal to 0. Okay. Now, we've seen a lot where 1 works and 1 doesn't. Is that always going to be the case? No. Could they both work? They could, and that does happen. Could neither of them work? That could be the case. I know we had 1 that didn't work earlier, but you could have a scenario where neither works as well. So just kind of beware. Okay, real quick on F. Any factoring to do? No. Least common denominator that we're going to multiply by is going to be x plus 5 because it's the only denominator. Now, I don't think I'm going to rewrite this one out. We're multiplying both sides by x plus 5, yes? I'm not rewriting that one out because it's just 1 term on each side. What happens? On the left, x plus 5 cancels, leaving me with x squared. On the right, what happens? X plus 5 cancels with x plus 5, leaving me with 25. Okay. How would you like to solve? We have 2 different options. It all depends on you and what you see. Could we just take the square root right here? Yes. The other option is, could we subtract the 25 and then factor it? Yes, that's the other option. But I am perfectly fine. When you have x squared equals a constant, just take the square root. Now, square root of x squared is x. What's the square root of 25? Plus or minus 5. You guys caught that, right? It's not just 5, it's plus or minus 5. Do those answers work? What do we know? If this is x plus 5, what's going to make it equal to 0? Negative 5 when you said equal to 0. So, out of habit, I totally wrote the negative plus or minus 5, but we've got to realize that, which one was it? Negative 5 doesn't work, but 5 does. Okay? Okay, guys. 4.5. You got a handful of problems to solve there. I've been trying not to make the homeworks too incredibly long this chapter. I don't know how successful I've been, but I've been trying. Okay? 4.5 is due tomorrow. Get on that. I did go through just last night, update topic 4 Skyward grades, so those are updated. We're at a week and a half of school left, guys. Week and a half to get everything done, so make sure you're getting that done. I am looking at probably tests on Friday. Okay, so you're definitely getting a review worksheet tomorrow, but my current plan is test on Friday. I just think Monday's pushing it a little bit too much in terms of final exam review, that is. So, test Friday.